joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show, senior NBA insider at the Athletic and Stadium, and the host of the Run It Back on FanDuel TV is Shams Charania. How you doing, Shams?
Rich, I'm good. How are you? Appreciate you having me on.
Come on, brother. I appreciate you chiming in on such a busy day and such a busy time. What, in your estimation, is the biggest narrative going into this playoff season for the NBA? What do you got for me on that front?
I think for sure just how wide open this is, and just from a perspective of parity, the league, I think, has gotten exactly what it designed when they came up with the play-in tournament. You have, when you look at both of the Western and Eastern Conference, you have Denver, Memphis, Sacramento, Phoenix, Golden State, Lakers, Clippers, basically 6-7 teams that think they have a chance to win a championship this year. And in the Eastern Conference, I think it's a little bit less, but you have Milwaukee, very top-heavy, Milwaukee, Boston, Philly, Cleveland. Maybe you can make a case for the Knicks, thinking they can get a little bit, further in the playoffs this year, depending on if they can beat the Cavs. So the parity and the amount of teams that we have right now in the league, 11, 12 teams that think they can win a championship, I think when I first started covering the league, it was 3, 4, 5 teams a year. So definitely the amount of parity.
And, of course, the Suns getting Durant and being a 4 seed, just lurking with the defending champs a 6 seed. It is a unique field, to say the least, Shams, right? Totally unique.
No doubt. And you look at the Clippers, I think they're definitely going to be looked at as the underdogs in the series against the Suns. But
there's no doubt.
Kawhi Leonard, he's been playing at an elite level. You have Russell Westbrook, Visa Zubac, Eric Gordon. They do have some depth to make this a real interesting series and potentially give Phoenix a real run. You have Kawhi Leonard being able to defend Kevin Durant on a nightly basis. They could, even out. Russell Westbrook against Chris Paul, they could even out. It's really going to be about Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. How can they stem the tide and kind of turn it in Phoenix's favor. So, yeah, I think just the amount of openness right now in the league is pretty remarkable.
Shams Charania joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. The Rich Eisen Show radio network is back now. Senior NBA insider at the Athletic and Stadium and host of the Run It Back on FanDuel TV. And we're just talking about the uniqueness of this field. Again, Kevin Durant, an NBA Finals MVP, is a 4 seed on his new team. He's still kind of just getting his feet wet there. You've got the Golden State Warriors defending champs as a 6 seed, and then LeBron James, an all-time great scorer, a 7 seed, and he could go visit the 2 seed. And a lot of people are thinking, and the Grizzlies, a lot of people are thinking this is obviously advantage Lakers this evening because the Timberwolves are coming in without Rudy Gobert. And walk me through the Timberwolves' decision to leave him at home. Best you can tell, Sean.
I think, it was an organizational decision from everything I'm told. Tim Connolly, their president of basketball operations, he came down personally to tell Rudy Gobert that he was being sent home on Sunday at halftime of that game. And the same decision was made by Tim Connolly and the organization to suspend him for this one game tonight. In this play-in tournament. From what I'm told, the roster, Kyle Anderson, who was involved in the altercation, the players, they were pretty much ready to move forward and see if Rudy Gobert can get back to the team and move on from that incident and keep it moving. But I think the organization, due to the punch, had decided that was something that they just could not let go and just allow him to play in a game the very next game. So suspended one game without pay, team suspension. And the expectation is that their next game, whether it be the next play-in game in a few days or the playoffs, their game 1 of the playoffs, if they win tonight, that he will be available for action. And then that will just continue. We're going to have to see how that dynamic is when he's back in the lineup.
Well, the dynamic, so many people are assuming that's just going to be a wrap for him whenever this season ends. Is that a safe assumption with him in Minnesota?
Well, it's a difficult one to make because of the contract that Rudy Gobert's on. He's got multiple years, significant money still left on his deal, and they did trade away significant assets, the 4 first-round picks, a draft swap, Walker Kessler, bevy of players to go get him, and to just move off him after a year, that's a tough pill to swallow. And also, are you going to recoup the assets that you got back? But he's under contract, Rich, until 2025, 2026, so he's got 2 years guaranteed and a 3rd-year player option after this year. $41 million next year, $44 in 24-25, and $47 million player option in 25-26. That's a contract in and of itself that's going to be difficult to just move and get a win in today's landscape. So I would not bank on that being a sure thing, no.
Charania, The Athletic, as well as Stadium senior NBA insider for both, host of Run It Back on FanDuel TV here on The Rich Eisen Show. You reported yesterday that Zion isn't anywhere remotely close to coming back for the Pelicans, even if they win their next couple of games. That he might. So I guess here's the deal. Simple question: what gives? What's going on with him, Shams?
Well, right now it's really a conditioning situation, and anytime you have a player like Zion Williamson, his body type, the specimen that he is, he's unique, one-of-one player that we're ever going to see in today's NBA. 6'6", the way he's able to jump and move, and the fluidity that he has when he's healthy, it's very unique. And so when he has a lot of these lower body injuries, it's a matter of reconditioning, getting in basketball shape, making sure that he's 100% so that he's not susceptible to further injury and worse injury when he's back on the floor. So I think the gap between conditioning and body healing is still there, and it's a wide gap from what I'm told right now. And I think the Pelicans are operating under the belief that he will not be available throughout their first round series if they do get there, and that he's not relatively close to making a return. He's going to be out for this play-in tournament. They've already ruled him out for the play-in tournament. David Griffin, their head basketball executive, he said that Zion Williamson may not get there. As far as the point of being there condition-wise, and that he, hopefully will be able to start practicing at some point during the first round of the playoffs. But with a guy like Zion Williamson, there are multiple progressions he has to have and be comfortable with before he can enter the floor. And he's had multiple setbacks throughout his career already when he's been coming back from injury. So that's something the Pelicans have to be cautious with and mindful of.
So is there any frustration that you sense from the organization coming out of New Orleans about how patently disappointing his first few years has been with them?
I think the roster, there's been a level of, it would be great to have Zion Williamson back. So there's the only level of frustration is when he's on the floor, this is a team that's contending for home court advantage. So there's frustration in not having him on the floor, and that he so far this year, unfortunately, since January, has not been able to get back to the floor. But I think throughout the Pelicans and David Griffin's era there and his tenure there, they've been pretty hands-on in terms of being cautious with the way, the way they've handled him, and that they're not just going to bring him back out of frustration and out of just desire of him being on the floor. Because if that was the case, I think he would have potentially been back by now. But they're going to be careful with him, and I think we've seen that throughout his tenure in New Orleans.
And Ja Morant, obviously the two of them are going to be connected for forevermore. He's the 2 seed, or he is part of the 2 seed, and part of the reason why the Memphis Grizzlies are the 2 seed. And he's going to have a front row seat, huge spotlight on him, everything that happened in Denver and his suspension, and now he's back. Is there any lingering concerns there that, or he's turned the page, different guy, and the playoffs he's set to make his mark in a way that we all expected him to? Sean?
No, I haven't heard any lingering effects. I mean, of course, this is something we have to continue to monitor, and something that off the court continue to monitor, but he hasn't been as active on social media. And I think that the Grizzlies organization, Ja Morant, the locker room, they all wanted this distraction, this cloud to just leave. And so far it has been gone. He's been pretty locked in. This team is looking like it's ready for a deep playoff run. If they play the Lakers, that'll be a very, very interesting series. But all along, the Grizzlies organization, his teammates have wanted him back on the floor, and we're ready to embrace him with open arms.
Okay, last couple for you here. Paul George, what's his status entering?
He will be sidelined to begin the playoffs. They play game 1 on Sunday. He will not play, and I'm told it's indefinite when he's going to be back. He has yet to be ruled out of this first-round series, and I am told he is making some progress with his return from that knee sprain that he suffered on March 21. Mm-hmm. But he's a guy that hasn't progressed yet to contact and scrimmage work and all the like. I think a lot of his work right now is exercising, therapy. He still has a brace on his knee. So doesn't particularly sound like someone that's just going to come back in a week or so. I think it's still going to take him some time to ramp up, and I think the Clippers are prepared right now that they're going to have to play on without Paul George for at least a little bit longer. And
what is your belief, crystal ball it, the MVP race from what you hear and from your colleagues and what you think the voting will turn out to be for the MVP this year?
Yeah, when I speak to players, I think Joel Embiid seems to be the consensus MVP in the players' eyes. Of course, they don't vote for the award.
Right.
But I think the momentum that he has definitely carried over the last month of the regular season. But when you look at the race, him, Giannis, Nikola Jokic, I think they all have a case for MVP this year. That's what makes this league, I think, right now, it probably at its most pure level, the amount of parity.
Shams, I appreciate the time. Know your time crunched. Let's do this again real soon. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Rich. Thank you.
You got it. That's Shams Charania, heading back to either the Athletic Stadium or FanDuel TV. I can't tell. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.